there's a cathartic joy to demolishing the city that you've spent hours and hours creating in City Skylines, and it is surprising that it's been such a long time coming, considering how much people loved sending in disasters to wreck things in SimCity. But City Skylines are finally getting those natural disasters in the quite appropriately named Natural Disasters DLC, which is out later this year. So which disasters are we talking about here? I mean, there's everything from the utterly awe-inspiring to the smaller scale and almost humdrum actually. Comets can be sent to fall on your city, leaving huge impact craters. Tsunamis can wash in and sweep everything but the largest buildings out of the way. Lightning storms can come and set buildings alight, and then there's forest and building fires, earthquakes, and a few more things to mess about with as well. They all scar your cities in different ways. The water can come to settle in a natural dip in the land, earthquakes can tear great fissures, sinkholes can just drop down into nothingness, and there is that joy to seeing how much you can wreck the place. One of my favourite effects is seeing how the water will pick up the traffic and wash it away as the huge wave just crashes into your city. It's just such a good effect. But if that was all that this DLC was, then it wouldn't really be a Colossal Order expansion pack. As they've shown in the past, they don't just add things willy-nilly, there always has to be a gameplay impact to go alongside it. So After Dark added the nighttime economy, the rises in burglary once the sun had gone down and so on, while Snowfall had you gritting roads and dealing with higher energy bills to counter the cold weather. Natural disasters aren't just enacted by your hand, but can appear randomly or even be scripted to happen once you reach certain milestones. So it's all about making sure that you're prepared for what can be thrown your way and then being able to recover from the disaster. There's tons of early warning systems then. You can put firewatch towers out in the woods, you can have tsunami buoys in the water, place a huge satellite array to track meteors, and then once an alert comes in, you want to get your citizens off to the shelters as quickly as possible, issuing an alert to get them all to head there and get to safety, or even placing special evacuation bus routes if you can't afford to maintain shelters with enough coverage across the whole city. But once the disaster has struck and the danger has passed, it's then about the recovery. The emergency services leap into action with firefighting helicopters that can get past the rubble blocking the roads, and a disaster response unit that will also use helicopters to go and check each pile of rubble for survivors, making it then safe to be rebuilt by whatever citizens or businesses want to take over that plot. Fixing the road network is a slightly more laborious affair at the moment, as you have to do it manually, checking each part of the road with the appropriate repair or upgrade tool, and then placing new sections where something has been completely destroyed. You'll also have to make sure to hook the electricity back up, check that the water network is intact, and several other things as well. If you like, you can preserve the scars of these disasters and build around them or over them, even commemorating a meteor strike with a monument to it. Or you can buff them out with the landscaping tools, but personally with this demo I was all about going for the somewhat absurd. I simply built a bridge over a sinkhole as opposed to filling it in, and I connected a road down through the meteor crater. And then, when the tsunami rolled in later on, marvelled and laughed at how it had flooded with water and washed away the handful of buildings that had sprung up in that place. But again, that is not everything that Natural Disasters has to offer. It also brings with it a scenario editor that lets you create scripted missions. You can now have it so that there's win and loss conditions, such as hitting a certain target amount of cash, or finding yourself destitute without a penny to your city's good name. Those triggers, and I have picked the two most obvious ones out of a huge list, can also be used to enact a disaster, though I was sad to discover that you couldn't link it to the number of people living in sin and get all biblical on your city. Or maybe, instead of having a disaster, you might like to script a snarky little chirp for players to see as they're trying out your scenario. It's really the answer to one of the only real criticisms of Skylines at launch, which is that you were building a city basically just for the sake of building. There weren't any standout goals or scenarios to play through, no peril once you managed to stabilise the bank balance in the mid-game. And Natural Disasters changes all that. From a brief disaster-packed hands-on, which admittedly was kind of scripted and it did have all of the disasters one after another, it does so quite brilliantly. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope that you've enjoyed it, though if you spotted a few frame rate hiccups along the way, it is because of running fraps at the same time. Natural Disasters is planned for release later this year, though there's no specific release date just yet, so you'll have to keep a beady eye out for that. In the meantime, you can always like this video and subscribe to our channel, or just come and visit us on the6thAxis.com. With that, I will bid you farewell and happy city building. Goodbye!